One thing that I've always loved about documentary filmmaking is you get the opportunity to dive into locations and subjects that you otherwise don't often know much about. And every so often, you find a story that piques your curiosity in a way that you never thought possible. This is one of those stories.
Everyone, of course, says you must like toast, which I grew up in a Dutch family and we didn't really, I don't even remember a toaster at home. Something as simple as toasting, the variety of toasters, and I have probably 1,500 toasters.
Ever since I was a kid, all I wanted to be was an explorer. Sail the seven seas, find new worlds.
But Uncle D, everything's already been found.
What? Like everything?
Well, yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, so much for that. But if I can't be an explorer, I can still be an adventurer. So I bought a motorhome and I'm hitting the open road. My name is Dustin Porter, and this is Destination Adventure.
We collected sort of kitchen stuff and deco-y stuff, and somewhere a couple toasters got into that, and then you start seeing all the variations, and really something as simple as toasting, the variety of toasters, and I have probably 1,500 toasters. There's lots worth in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, surprisingly. People see neat toasters, and sometimes there's 1,000 of them out there. And then some of these can be quite boring, and it includes a bunch of European toasters. It was mostly North American, and then when you have most of that, it's like, okay, I'll look at the Europeans, and slowly, and I bought a small collection from a European, and there was the guy who had the premier collection, and he passed away, and then his kid got in touch with me and made them available, and I never thought I'd ever see the day. And he made me pay for them, but they're one of a kind, so what else do you do? There's a couple other guys, but on par with me, between us, we would have everything. A guy in South Carolina, and he has the Guinness World Book of Records came to him, so he's in there as the most toasters. That meant something to him. Don't mean so much to me, but I have the Holy Grail, or a couple of them. One is an English toaster. That's the only one known, and if you go on Google, they have a distorted history of it because Wikipedia does that, and there's virtually no pictures of it. So there's some drawings of it, so that keeps it even more special. There's very little goes wrong with the toaster, particularly the older ones, because the older ones are an element. They're just a short, right? That you turn on like a light bulb. So as long as the element is still connected, they work. Most of them are just the earliest ones. You just lean the toast up against the fire, and they get interesting when they had mechanisms to turn the toast. There's a couple patents that actually made the variety of toasters. Like there was a very simple mechanism that turned the toast when you opened the door. There was just a little angle on the bottom. You opened the door and the toast slid down. And so it had turned itself. You closed the door and you were doing the other side. It was a turnover toaster, and it was so simple, right? But you had to pay for this patent from the people that put it out. Westinghouse ended up buying the patent, but for the next about 12 years or so, people were building all kind of mechanisms to go around that. And that made all these interesting mechanisms. And then the other one was the pop-up toaster, which was from the latter 20s. Toastmaster put that out. And it was pretty much the answer, right? Well, same thing. People were looking for all kinds of different ways. So they had like little drive-through toasters and ones that automatically open sideways or drop down. I've got a half a dozen toasters that when they're done, the door opens and it falls down instead of pops up. Those two patents created all this variety, which made for the interest. There's one in particular. Somebody led me onto it, another collector, and a guy from San Francisco had this toaster, and it was probably prototypical, put out by a designer, a deco designer. So like when they got into that period when they started actually putting designers' names on stuff, this guy Dreyfus designed this toaster for a vacuum cleaner company, the Bertman Vacuum Cleaner Company. And they had built a toaster, an interesting, but just a flopping, turnover toaster. So they hired this guy to give us a piece of art, right? And he did. And it's a single slice with little windows on it, and the weirdest element, and almost one of a kind. The only other one out there is in the Museum of Modern Art. And then, of course, because you have all the toasters, then I have to get into the other appliances, and there's actually I have some significant other appliances that are like a tea kettle and a coffee pot from the 1890s, which is like unheard of for electric appliances. It's the first manufacturer, and they are exceptionally rare.
When I went to Stewart, I did not anticipate finding the world's largest toaster collection. I also didn't anticipate meeting a gentleman like Frank. And honestly, I could have done 10 stories just on his collections and projects, but I really appreciate him allowing me to pursue a couple of these stories. And toasters is something that I have never even given a second thought to. And seeing his collection and learning a bit about that history, it really piqued my curiosity. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed it as well. And most of all, thanks for watching.